I look tired because I am tired. Um, I woke up super frustrated this morning, and it's showing across the board. So I've got like a little mix of like when I wake up in, I don't know how to label this state. It is kind of like a autism hangover. So yeah, it really is. It's like a personality hangover. Um, Sensory overload hangover. Oh, that's a good one. That could work. Yeah, it's a sensory overload hangover. So I went to um, the Texas Eclipse Festival this weekend, and with the kids. And if you know anything about what this festival was, which I didn't really know, I didn't really look into it a lot. It was like a bunch of our friends were going, and I was like, sure, let's go. It's a thing. Um, I I am not a techno person. Um, and it's one thing to have like a couple techno stages, but it's another thing to have like several very loud competing techno stages. So there was a massive sensory overload happening to my brain. And then they oversold the family camping area. Oops. And moved us to an upgraded area, but the upgrade was directly behind two of the stages that were very contrary to each other in a lot of ways. One of them was more like a band stage, and one was a techno stage, and they were both very loud, and it was just competing noise, and it was 24/7. So apparently, I found out after the fact, because I had no service the entire weekend. It was just like the tip of the iceberg. That the county didn't realize that they were going to be playing music 24/7 either. So they were like, guys, like, can you turn it down a little bit? And we came, I think that started like Wednesday or Thursday, and we came on Saturday night, and I couldn't sleep at all Saturday night because it was so loud. It was vibrating the ground. It was so loud. And the next night it wasn't as bad. It was loud, but it wasn't as loud. It wasn't obnoxiously loud. Still competing sounds, which is like nails on a chalkboard when you have competing rhythms going that don't go together. So really good DJs. Like for the most part, I think there was like a high amount of talent there. There was maybe one that was pretty terrible in the middle of the night, and that didn't last forever. So yeah, so that was rough. Excuse me. It was a weird combination of well organized and very unorganized. So I think it just depended on the department. There was a lot of departments that were hired out from different areas, and some departments were very, very tight, and some were just horrifically unorganized. And those competed a lot because the ones that were unorganized were very passionate about how unorganized they were, and were like very stubborn about what they were gonna do or not do, or allow or not allow. So it created a lot of unnecessary chaos. There wasn't a lot of adapting going on to changes from some of those people. So it was an interesting combination. I was fortunate to be in a camp area that had just amazing hosts. Absolutely the most amazing people. I loved them so much. I fed them dinner and breakfast. They were so great. My dogs are going crazy. Hold on. Anyway, yeah, they were really helpful. They were trying to be helpful. They were trying to do what they could. So one of the issues. There was a lot, but one of them was they didn't thoroughly explain that our cars were going to get completely disassembled and searched. That was a surprise, and that made it take significantly longer to get in and get settled, and people were very upset about that. And it's like, it's one thing if you're going to do that to like explain to people, hey, when you pack, just so you know, we're going to need to search your car, or like maybe have drug sniffing dogs if that's a big concern. Then that could help, because then you can identify the areas that you need to spend more time searching. Like I didn't know, because they had a different set of rules for the camping area versus the actual event area. So I packed according to the camping rules, knowing that I could leave stuff at my campsite when I go into the festival if they had contrary things. But then they just ended up searching the car for the event. So it's like I might have things that aren't allowed in the event, even though I'm not going into the event right now. I'm going into the campsite. So anyway, there was a lot of attitude. They were like, we need to search your stuff if you're going to come into this event. You need to, I wasn't even giving them attitude. I was just asking, like, hey, what's the deal, guys? Like, I'm cool with the searching. I just would have liked to know that, so I could have, my car was packed top, middle, back to the brim, because we thought we were camping further away from everything and in the family area, and it's like a quiet zone, supposed to be away from the music, and we brought in all our own food and water and everything because we thought we were going to be out that way. So then when we got switched, we didn't need half the stuff we had, but we didn't know that. So we had way more stuff than we needed, which was a little frustrating, because it's like, I wanted to do the camping experience, and as much as I appreciate and love the upgrade that we got, that was very kind. It wasn't what I asked for. So, especially with kids being behind two very, very loud main stages, that was interesting. Anyway, so that was tough. And then we didn't want to pay an extra $100 to park our car in the event. Plus, we wanted to be able to leave when we wanted to leave. So we needed to park in the auxiliary parking or whatever, like the cheap parking. So we're like, okay, we need to park there. And they're like, well, that's not here. Like, okay, where do we go? I don't know, like down that way. Okay. So we'll go down that way. We go to the next, well, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to park down that way. I'm like, are you telling me I did not need to just sit through this entire freaking line right now? Well, you have to get your stuff checked to get in the event. Like, yeah, but you're telling me to leave the event, go park somewhere else outside of the event. So I could have parked out there and not had my whole car searched. I didn't need to wait in this hour-long line. And there was nothing to explain that. So I feel like I'm moving this around a lot. Let me move this down here. So anyway, we get to somebody who's like, go down this dark path that is kind of a road, and if you go to the end, there's parking there. So we go to the end. There's no parking. There's cars parked, but there's no parking. There's no attendants. There's nobody. And so we're like, I moved a piece of wood to make a parking spot for us, and we like parked over some like shifty gravel stuff under a tree, and I was like, all right, I don't know if this is parking or not, but it's all we can see. And so we parked stuff. Now, because they moved us, they were going to help bring our gear to where we were going, because it was so far away and in the back end of the whole event. This is a huge, massive event. So they were going to send someone with a car or truck to bring our stuff. We're like, okay. So we have almost no service whatsoever, but we're trying to communicate. So we have somebody coming, and he comes and we start loading our stuff up. And he's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. We can just make trips. I'm like, oh, I'd rather not, but okay. If we can make trips, then fine. So we get half our stuff, half of it. And like indiscriminately, meaning, anyway, I'll get to that. So he He's trying to figure out where to go. He gets in an argument with security because he's like, I am a shuttle person. I have a pass. And they're like, no, you can't go there. And he's like, I literally know the owners. They told me to do this and gave me this pass. And that happened a lot the whole weekend, where security would like block things. And they're like, well, we were told no one can come back here. And he's like, there's literally a car going back there right now. Why are they okay going, but I'm not? What do I need to do to get the right pass or whatever what special words do you need? Do you want me to call my boss and have my boss call your boss? Like, what do you need? And they're just being awful. So they're like, you're going to have to turn around. So he like gets a hold of somebody and he turns around and he says the magic words. He's like, it's like, I need to go to Gold Lot or something like that. I don't know. And they were like, oh, yeah, no, that is that way. You have to go that way. He's like, yeah, I know. So can I now go that way? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can go that way. It was a whole thing. And the woman from security, and this is the theme for the entire weekend, there was amazing security. They were rare. Most of the security, and well, no, okay, that's not fair. I can say half the security that we interacted with were god awful, wrong information and stubborn about it and unwilling to call someone to ask. So it just like caused me so much rage. So, okay. So back to my Solar Fire Fest, which is what I'm calling it now. So he finally takes us down there. We go check him in the front, and they're like, there's no more space. There's no more space. They oversold. There's no more space. We're going to upgrade you. We're just going to make a judgment call. And again, these hosts were amazing. And they're like, we're going to put you in a yurt. Wow. Thank you so much. That's amazing. We don't have to put our tents up. It's late. We got there. We already got there late, but then like waiting in line and trying to find parking and waiting for the guy to come pick us up. And after all of that, like 3 hours have gone by since we arrived, and we're just now getting there at like midnight. We're tired. Our kids are tired. There's a whole big festival going on. The music is extremely loud, and we're just like, we just want to go to bed. So they got us cots, which was really nice. They got us an air mattress and some blankets, and they were like, awesome, just go there. So we put everything in there, and then I'm like, cool, I'm going to go with him to get the other half of our stuff. You get the kids settled. Cool beans. And that was on, anyway, there's like high level annoying things and low level annoying things. Like the air mattress had a hole in it and it kept deflating. They had to like run electricity, but they didn't know how to, and they couldn't figure it out to like blow up the air mattress. But they were trying to be helpful. And one of the guys ended up getting hit in the eye with the electric cord, and it was just this whole drama, and that sucked to have like a deflated air mattress. But that was also like a super low level, like I can deal. Like, yeah, I woke up achy, but like that's not that big of a deal. That's just like a fluke thing. That's an annoying fluke thing. And they were so accommodating. They wanted to help as much as they could. So anyway, so this guy takes me to go back to my car. And so we go back, and we get to another one of these super fun security people who just didn't want to be helpful. And they were like, no, I don't care what pass you have. This guy is the head of one of the transportation departments too. So like, he's not just some dude. He's running a department. And he's like, I need to get her to her car. She's in a special area. There's no way for her to get to it. We have to physically go get her stuff and bring it to her area because it's so far away, and there's just no reality in which she can like walk to her car and grab it and like drag it out here. I have to physically go to her. And they said no. They blocked it off. They said it's closed, and it's this kid tells me, and if your car's parked over there, that's day parking, which there's no way for me to know that. There's no freaking signs over there. Nobody told me where to park. And all those cars are getting towed in the morning. Okay. So I can't get to my car, and it's going to get towed in the morning. Well, you can walk, but you can't drive over there to get your stuff or blah, blah, blah. Total nightmare. So I can't get my stuff. So some of our kitchen stuff, my husband's clothes, like just a whole bunch of our stuff, like half our stuff is just gone. So, and this guy is like, I can't do anything. The guy that was helping us, he's like, my shift is ending in like 3 minutes and I have to go do other stuff. I have to sleep. Like he's barely going to sleep this whole weekend. Anyway, he tried to help and it's just like, there's nothing we can do. He's like, call me in the morning when you wake up and we'll try to go get your stuff. Cool. So, so we did that. We called in the morning. I was able to get the rest of our stuff. We were able to like set everything up and make breakfast and do all that stuff. Now I went out after he dropped me off. It was like 1:00 in the morning. After all of that stuff went down, like, no, he dropped me off at midnight. I'm sorry. He dropped me off at midnight. And then I met up with some of our friends and we went and walked around the event a little bit. The kids were sleeping. My husband was sleeping and I was just curious. And it was a cool event. It's very spread out. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. Very well done. A lot of just like high tech light shows. And I mean, it looked expensive. The stuff that they put into it. I mean, they put a lot of time and energy into this. Everything was just so well done. And I honestly, I've been to a lot of festivals and I think this is probably the most well attempted festival. I think they made a huge attempt to keep it as organized as they could. So where a large portion of the failure occurred is in some of the communication over what to expect, where things are. Like I couldn't read the map. I tried. I walked that place quite a few times and it was very confusing and everyone was very confused. So and they had signage up and they had maps. And it was still super confusing. So it was just a little too massive, I think. And they tried really hard. They definitely tried really hard. And it was more so like a drug-induced like adventure than an organized event for families. So, it was like there was an app, but you couldn't use it because there was no service and there was Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi never worked. And there was just a lot of like gaps. And I think that this was like a yearly event. This is something where they could fix a lot of those things over time. So again, a lot of those things were kind of like lower annoyances. They weren't huge issues. The bigger issues really were with security. So they gave us the wrong pass. They gave us the pass for where we were supposed to be and not for where we were moved to. And that was a huge problem. That ended up becoming a gigantic problem because where we were moved to was in the backstage area. So we needed a special pass to go to the backstage area. And they had moved a bunch of people over there. So it wasn't just us. There was a bunch of people who got shifted over there. And sometimes security was like, cool, yeah. No, we got the list. You're good. And sometimes security was like, no, you may not go back to your campsite. You have the wrong band. And I'm like, that's cool. No, I do understand that. But can you call somebody? Because there is a list and you clearly don't have it. They're pointing to the list on the gate, which was pre-printed. And I'm like, yes, but everything changed when they oversold and moved a bunch of people over here. So that is an old list. There's an updated list that your bosses have and we're supposed to give you guys. And we're on it. If you just call someone, we can clear this up. Refused. Absolutely. This was a theme. Refused to call anyone, to get on a radio, to do anything. They just said no. Hard no. So this happened several times. So I ended up, one time I was with the kids and my husband and I was just over it. I was just freaking over it. And I had to go find somebody and I was like, I told her what happened and I was like, he pointed to you and he said to go talk to you. And she's like, doing me a favor. Like, I'm going to do this one time as a favor. I'm like, thank you for doing me a favor to let me go back to my freaking campsite. Like this was, I had so much rage at this stupid, get on a walkie-talkie. You have them, use them. It's so, anyway, So then the organizers are trying to like figure it out. They're like, well, let's get you the right bands, but I need everybody's names and blah, 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 blah. It never ended up happening. They're busy. They're trying to put out other fires and they're just like, I don't know, figure it out. So that was something that was a theme. I just knew that I was probably going to get crap. And I got to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to keep walking. They can just scream and chase after me. And I'm just going to keep walking because I'm just super fucking over this. So anyway, I forgot to mention, in the morning, after the transportation guy helped me bring the rest of our stuff, as he's getting ready to leave, I was like, so do I just call you when we're getting ready to leave to help bring our stuff back to the car? And he said, no. Okay. Is there anyone that can help us bring our stuff back out to our car? Probably not. Probably not. I'm sorry. What? He's like, yeah, no, I don't know. At the end of the festival, it's just going to be crazy. And I mean, you can ask and I can say no. Like, so we just brought all our stuff out to the middle of nowhere and we're not allowed to bring our vehicle in and no one's going to help us bring our stuff back out. He's like, well, you could ask your group to help. I'm like, their cars are also packed to the brim because they also thought we were parking in the middle, or we were going to camp in the middle of nowhere. And so we all brought in everything. So all our cars are completely packed to the brim. So basically you're telling me no one's going to help me. Okay, cool. This is a longer story than I anticipated. So we go to the festival. It's very crunchy. There are some parts that are fun for the family. It's very hot. It's very spread out. It was exhausting. There was a odd mix of healthy. It was mostly unhealthy food, but I was told there was going to be more healthier stuff. There really wasn't. There was a handful of healthier things, but it really wasn't. It was mostly fair food, which, it was unfortunate because I was really hoping there was going to be healthier things, but I also brought a lot of our own food. So we only ate out a couple times and it ended up being very expensive. So glad we brought most of our own food. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. I inhaled dirt the entire time. So, it's the whole fair booger situation. So anyway, there was some really cool astronaut talks, and that was cool. There was like a cool meteorite thing for the kids. They did like a blast zone thing with the gel blasters. That was fun. So we had fun. We went to the river. Everyone was naked. My children got not everyone, but there's a lot of naked people. So my children got a lesson in anatomy. So that was a whole thing. They didn't seem to care, which was interesting. I kind of we didn't expect it, but we were like, well, it's very crunchy. This is a very crunchy thing. So we should have expected this. People were respectful, and for the most part, there's only like one lady smoking weed, like blowing it in their direction. It was like very oblivious, but she was also blowing it in her own child's direction. So it was like, okay, we'll move. But for the most part, people were pretty respectful, and we didn't stay long. It was very refreshing being able to go into the water, and that's what they really wanted to do, was go into the water. It was really packed. So it was packed everywhere. So it was a sold out event. So, it was packed everywhere. So we don't all do very well with crowds. So that was rough. But again, that's not like the organizers. Again, it's like low issues, not like major issues. So anyway, we got to take the kids out one night. So that was Sunday night. We got to take them out, and we got to show them all the light stuff, and they got to see a lot of really cool stuff, and we brought them their own little light things to throw up in the air, and so they got to play with that, and we were all exhausted. We got lost. It took a very long time to get back to our campsite. There was just so much stuff. And then the second night the music wasn't as loud, so it was a little easier to sleep. And then my husband wasn't feeling well, and we decided, let's go. We need to go, because it's it just wasn't our scene. We really wanted to see the eclipse. This is a big deal for my husband, especially. He's big into astronomy and everything. And really wanted to share this experience with kids, but it kept looking more and more like it was going to be cloudy anyway. And we were just like, this is just not our scene. So I contacted them that night and was like, hey, can anyone help me start loading our stuff out? It's slower. Things are dying down. Is there anyone that can help? No response. I'm like, okay, I'll wait till the morning. So I messaged them in the morning, like, can anyone help? No. Okay. We need to go. He's not feeling well. I get that this is the solar eclipse day. Everyone's freaking out. But we need to go. We've been trying to leave since last night. Like, we'd like to leave. Can we leave, please? No. Sorry, nobody can help you. And it's not for lack of the hosts trying to help. They're trying to help, but they're like, no one is going to help you. We're not getting any responses from anybody in transportation. I text the guy and he didn't even say no. He just like, no, anything. So I'm talking to the people I'm with. I'm like, hey, you guys are leaving. My whole group decided they're leaving. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe I can like get a ride with you guys. They're packed to the brim. So they're like, I don't know if we can even fit you in here. So, and all of them drove in, like they paid the extra money to drive in. I wish I didn't know I was going to be in this situation. So I have no way to get to my car, which is like miles and miles and miles away, super far away. And I'm not 100% sure I even know how to get to my car, because this guy is the one who was driving me back and forth amongst this gigantic maze on a huge ranch. So I'm talking to the camp hosts and they want to help me. I've been feeding these people. I'm like, I made them dinner. I made them breakfast. Like we've been friends. We're hanging out. I handled their wounds. Like I've been good to them. So they're trying to be good to me. And they're like, we're trying to help. We don't know what to do. And then finally they're like, I have a pass for back here, a car pass. I'm going to let you borrow it. If you can find a way to get to your car and bring your car back here, then you can load up your stuff. Like, that's excellent. That is you know what? Let's do it. That's great. So I start walking. Transportation's not running. But I forgot to mention, right as this conversation is happening, they get on the announcement, the entire event is canceled. Everyone needs to evacuate due to inclement weather and possible tornado weather. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I'm trying to get out of here. Now everyone's going to be trying to get out of here, and we can't get a hold of anyone in transportation. I start walking. I talk to security. I'm like, where is the shuttle picking up? And they send me down some direction. I'm like, cool. And I start walking, and I'm not seeing any shuttles running. And I get to the next security point, and I'm like, hey, are there shuttles running? And they're like, we don't think so. I never saw one single shuttle the entire time. I don't know if they did end up running, but there was no shuttles that I saw. And security was like, we haven't seen shuttles. Like, we don't even know if the shuttles are running at all. Like, everything's canceled. So there's a whole bunch of people coming out of the event. That's a 24-hour event. So there's people coming out confused, frustrated, and now there's no shuttles. So, and I need to get to my car. Nobody will take me. There's no shuttle, and my car is miles and miles and miles away. So I just start walking, and I just start trying to hitchhike. I'm flagging people down. I'm like, hey, can you please drive me to the end of the street so I can try to find my car? And no, there's no room. There's no room. Finally, I got in the front of a cart. I was like, hey, my husband is not feeling well. We've been trying to get out since last night. They were supposed to drive me to my car or like to help us, and they're not helping us. There's no transportation. I need help. I need to get to my car. And can you drive me as far as we can go? And he says, sure. So we get in there. Turns out he's like the second in command of security. And he's calling people, and he's like, hey, path of least resistance, guys. Like, I know, yeah, stick to the rules as much as you can, but if you need to let them go, let them go. Like let's get people out, which is what I wanted to hear from security. So they must have good, what I anticipate, just from the conversation I had with him, I suspect that the security company, it probably is a good security company. And this is what I want to emphasize, especially because he helped me so much and he was flexible. And I suspect that a lot of it is because they have like untrained hires that are just, they're not trained well enough, and they don't understand how incredibly important it is to be flexible. Now, my family does smaller events, and we have the same issues. You have people who are so rigid on the rules, and they don't recognize that in a festival environment, things are so fluid. Things are constantly changing or going wrong, and weather occurs and stuff's happening, and you have to adapt. The goal should always be to keep people happy and move them forward. And if you can't bend the rules for them, if it's not within reason, you need to contact your superiors to let them make that choice. But just saying no, being inflexible, that's not an option. That doesn't help. So anyway, so he drives me part of the way. He explains, I don't know, you have to like go down this road up that way and to the left, and then like make a right at the rock. Like, he took me halfway and I ran the other half of the way. I don't even know how many miles I ran, and I've been like really appreciative. I've been working out more frequently and been doing a lot of incline walking, like pace walking, to try to increase my stamina. So luckily that did help. So I felt like I was going to die. My body was all achy at the end of all this. But anyway, so I'm walking, I'm talking to people. I'm like, I don't know where my car is. It was next to the auxiliary lot in the day parking, and they said it moved. Every day there was a different auxiliary parking. There was just so many people. They were constantly adding more parking. And so they're like, I honestly could not tell you where your car is. Maybe go down that road. Maybe it's that way. So I wander until I find my car. I did eventually find my car. And people had drawn all over it in the dirt. Cute, guys. Thanks. So I get my there. I have to tell my dogs to be quiet again. Okay, so I get to the car. There are ways to get to my camping from inside where I was at, but I didn't know where it was. Like, I could have just started driving. I'm like miles and miles and miles away from where I was at, where my kids are at, my husband, and our stuff. And I'm like, the easiest thing to do is to just get out to the road, make a right, drive down a ways, and then take that main road back to where I was at. Like, I'm pretty sure I can figure that out. I think maybe. so confusing where everything was. So I get down to the main road, and there's police officers there, and they're blocking the way I need to go. So I pull over, I get out, and I was like, hey, I need to go that way to go load up my stuff. They gave me the pass. They told me to go that way. She says, no. I'm sorry. She's like, no, the event shut down. I'm aware the event organizers gave me this pass and told me to get my car and bring it back to our campsite to load our stuff so we can leave. No, the event shut down. Sorry, ma'am, I can't help you. And I can't go back into the event. You have to leave. Like, my kids are miles away in the back of the entire event. She's like, you're going to have to call them and tell, how old are your kids? Like 9 and 12. They're going to have to walk and meet you at the road. Miles away. And what road? I can't even go, like, I can't explain how dumb this person is. She was not listening, and she was not interested in listening at all. And she's like, I don't know, figure it out. She's like, and I was like, well, all our stuff is there. Like, she's like, you're going to have to get a hold of the organizers. I did. They gave me this pass. They told me to get my car and to go back into the event that way, far away from where we're at, super far away from where, miles and miles and miles away from where we're at, to go get my kids and my stuff and leave. And you're going to have to call them. And what? She's like, well, you're going to just call your family and tell them to meet you at the road. You're going to have to leave your stuff. I'm sorry, what? She's like, yeah, other people are just coming back tomorrow to get their stuff. According to the weather reports and everything, tomorrow's going to be worse. And they were literally telling us, if you don't get your stuff out now, you might not be able to come back to get it for like 2 weeks. And we don't live here. We live super far away. So she's just like not interested. So I get back in my car and I'm trying to like, I don't know, maybe I'm just going to turn around and start driving back in, and she's going to have to scream and yell at me because I'm not allowed to turn around and go back in, but I also can't turn right to where my family is. The only thing I can do is abandon my family. So here's my finest moment. I lost my shit. I lost it. I just slammed on my brakes. I started to go, but then I slammed on the brakes. I turned the car off. I jumped out of the car. There was a cluster of men over by the security tent where this is the original entrance. And I just start losing it. My family is at the back of the event. We're behind the stages. There's no way to get to them. I need to get to my family. We've been trying to leave since last night. She's not letting me go. The event organizers told me to get my car and go back in and get my stuff, and she's not going to let me. I can't even turn around and go. Am I supposed to just abandon my family? There's a storm coming. I've been trying to leave since last night, and they will not let me leave. I just want to leave. Please let me leave. I went unhinged, and this poor group of older men. I happen to know, being a female, that a particular age range of men have a tendency to not respond level-headedly to panicky women. Because I'm not being aggressive, mind you. I'm not like cussing them out. I'm not threatening them. I'm panicking. And I know that when I have a panic response, that there is a large portion of older men who will do anything in their power to get me to shut up and calm down because it stresses them out and they don't want to deal with it. Or they just like don't want to keep dealing with it. So they immediately, this one of them was just like, whoa, okay, breathe, stop for a second, just for a sec, stop. Can you explain that slower? Explain it again. So I explained what the situation was and what I was told to do and what she's saying and how I am in an impossible situation because they took all my stuff and brought us out into the middle of nowhere and then refused to help get us and our stuff back to the car. So their solution was to have me drive back in and go deal with it because they're not going to deal with it. And he's like, okay. He apparently was the police chief captain handling this. And he was very sweet, very wonderful. And he's like, we're going to make this work. We're going to make it work because his jackass officer, fuck that lady to hell. She's a piece of shit. She should not be an officer. I'm sorry. I hate her. I think she should not be an officer. She has no chill. She could have handled that in so many other ways. She, again, with the radio thing, she could have fucking called somebody. She could have gotten a goddamn radio and said, hey, can I get permission? I have this person who's saying da-da-da-da-da. Instead, just like these other horrific security guards, it was no. No. I was told no, so no. And not, there are thousands of cars and people trying to escape this situation right now. And her solution is to be a piece of shit. So anyway, fuck her. So this guy, I have so many bad words for this woman. I should have got her name. But I just didn't have the energy. I didn't have the energy for any of this. It had been a long weekend. I had barely slept at all because of the ooms going on everywhere. And I just wanted to get my family out and go home. And so anyway, so he's like, he wasn't talking to her. He's like, we're going to let her go. And he tells me, when you get to the next checkpoints, tell them you're a vendor. That's the only people they're letting in right now is vendors so they can get their stuff and get out. I'm like, cool. thank you. Fuck you, lady. And so I go down the road and hit the next checkpoint. You can't go this way. What are you doing? I'm a vendor. Sorry, you can't go this way. This is like the story of this weekend. Somebody told me to do it this way. No, you can't do it this way. Okay, fuck you. I'm doing it anyway. It's like, the police chief captain down there told me to tell you I am a vendor. I need to go that way. Oh, okay. In which case, go ahead. Next checkpoint. I am a vendor. Well, I mean, okay, fine, whatever. Thanks, Your Grace. Like, you guys all suck. Communication sucked. Didn't hit any more checkpoints. Everybody else is checked out. Nobody gives a crap at this point when you're inside the venue. Loaded up my stuff. Said thank you. This was stupid. Goodbye. Got on the road. Drove as long as we could. Everything was cloudy. Totally missed the entire eclipse. It got dark, which was cool. We tried to make the best of it with their kids. But we didn't get that fun, cool eclipse experience. We just spent a stupid amount of money for not having the eclipse experience, which was the entire thing we were interested in. The music, the party, like the camping, all that stuff was not the main point. The main point was the eclipse. Then we found out after the fact, thanks to Instagram, that they were allowing people to stay for the eclipse and then leave after, and we didn't know that because they told us we needed to evacuate. So we did that, and we were trying to leave before that anyway, but it's still like, it was just because it was, anyway, it was a whole thing. So mixed reviews. I think it could have been marketed more clearly. I don't think it necessarily, I don't know. I think the security thing was really the biggest issue. I think they got a little tricky with the regulations with the county without actually getting appropriate permissions and like buy-in from the county, which created some issues as well. And it's just, yeah, I think that they went a little too big for a first-time event at a new venue. They were a little too ambitious, and because of that, because of the cost and the ambition, it may have a bigger fallout afterwards because of that. I think that those portions of things could have been avoidable. I think they could have done a little better in that regard. But overall, I think they met well, and they obviously put a lot of money into it. So their overhead must have been exceptionally high. I don't know if they're going to do any kind of refunds because we didn't get to stay our final night. And I don't know. We'll see.